Hello and welcome everyone to Liluye's latest video interview with Swati Soharia from Katran. We're delighted to have her here with us today. She's based in New Delhi in India, and she has been passionate about working with sustainable fashion, upcycling, and working with marginalized communities in India to try and really maximize the impact that they can not only do to try and improve the economic and living conditions of those in the communities that she serves, but also to recycle and reuse, particularly textile waste, to try and have products that they can sell to people across India and the world. And so far to date, correct me if I'm wrong, that you've upcycled and recycled 4 tons of fabric waste in just 3 years, which is absolutely phenomenal to hear about that.
Yes.
So welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today, Swati.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Emma. It's lovely to be a part of this project.
Brilliant. Well, we're looking forward to learning so much more about what you're doing. My name is Emma Lees. I'm the staff writer volunteer from Liluye, and we're working with lots of different organisations and partners to try and really support and promote the awareness to help end trafficking, eradicate trafficking for good. So firstly, if we could just ask you, Swati, why did you first get started in this work?
So honestly, Emma, it actually started with my little hobby that when I was a little child, I used to play with, scrap and paper discards and textile waste here and there. And waste material used to be my hero product. And, that's how I used to kind of, create craft. So that kind of lingered on till I became a professional. And when I was studying design, I was studying fashion design as a profession. And it's during that time that I actually got to see how the fashion industry is kind of unknowingly or knowingly leading to a lot of waste. So there are tons of fabric which, discarded production waste fabric, which goes into the landfill every single year, and which is just basically expanding the size of the landfill. And most of the fabrics which, that are popular these days are synthetic fabrics, right? Polyesters and the likes, and which are non-biodegradable and which kind of just contaminate the soil and water. So it became something like a mission for me that I want to do something about it and not just say things, right? Mm-hmm. I can't just be a person who, says that, okay, this is bad for the environment, this and that. I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to bring about some change. And then in the process, I realized that a lot of women are kind of not given importance. So most women in the, let's say, low-income communities, they know how to stitch and sew, but the professional tailors are mostly men. So it became something like a challenge again, because it's like an unsaid thing which kind of floats around in the ecosystem, that women are not very good tailors. So I again took it up as a challenge that, okay, I'll make sure that I train those women, I make them good, and they become the workforce for me. So, this is an overview, but the triggering effect was actually I gave myself a challenge for a year, and it happened, I think, in 2016, 17-ish, that I won't shop for a year. So I didn't buy any clothes whatsoever for at least a year. And then there was no looking back, So, and during that time, I was like, I wanted to wear something new, because everybody's tempted, right, to wear something interesting and once in a while. So then I upcycled my old clothes and, clothes of my family members. So they became, the iconic pieces in my wardrobe, and that got a lot of eyeballs. So that was actually the start of the business. So then we started looking at factory discards. So that fabric, that unused kind of fabric, became our raw material, and then we constructed that into something new.
Okay. And so then the tailors that you brought on board, were these were tailors that you were training themselves,
Correct.
Women from these communities. How did you find
Correct.
those women, and how did that transition go?
So that's actually a very good question, because that was a very big hiccup in my journey. So I actually decided that, I was looking at women from underprivileged communities and people in the economically weaker sections. And I was looking at that, and then it struck me that why shouldn't I look at NGOs who are already training women in basic tailoring skills? So those women are, passing out of the college, the NGO institutes every year, and they want work, right? So I might as well contact those NGOs, and they would connect me to the women, and that actually successfully happened. And it so happened that then I became a part of a lot of training projects, creating something big out of that, right? So those women are getting trained, and we are hoping that they would find some good, areas of livelihood eventually after the training.
And what kind of women and communities are you working with? Obviously, with Liluye, we're working predominantly with those who are trafficking survivors or risk marginalized communities. Are those the types of women that you're finding yourself working with?
Yes, that's right. So there are, of course, trafficked women who are finding another work. There are some women who are actually still in the brothels, and they are, this is their side work. And then eventually they are wanting to kind of switch to this kind of work completely, where, it's just plain respectable, sewing work that they're doing in their own homes. Apart from that, women in the slums are also working with us. Again, the mobilization happens through the NGOs, and we provide training to them.
Right. Okay. So you obviously the partnership that you got with the NGOs are very important to help.
Correct. Very important because honestly, there are a lot of things which happen in the day-to-day life. I'm sure you've seen it. That, for example, if it's a group of women, their health has to be taken care of, right? Their emotional health and well-being has to be taken care of. If they have some financial issue, there has to be somebody that they can report to. See, so I mean, there are a lot of cases of domestic violence. Now, somebody has to be kind of be there and help them out in these issues, right? So it's not just any group of people working with you. They have stories, right? They have all these baggages of stories with them that they have to be fixed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So do you think that obviously the work that you're providing is helping people to transition out of trafficking or, providing an income, because effectively that's why they're in the situation in the first place, through poverty or lack of options. Do you think that trafficking can be eradicated?
Want to work towards the fact that there's zero trafficking at all, you see. So for that, what we can do is we can provide some source of livelihood to people. So I was speaking to one of these girls and who's still working in the brothels. So she has been born and brought up in the brothel, right? Because her mother was one. Her mother was also kind of in the sex work. And it's very normal for her to, do this work, she says, right? But because she hasn't seen the other side. So I think that if another side is kind of shown to them and kind of introduced that there is another way of living, I think there's nothing like it. I mean, that's the little part that we can play, that role. And because they also want to understand that right now they have a house, they have a home to live in. Of course, it has a lot of other kind of nuances to it, but then if they kind of switch to another kind of work, then they don't have a home, because then they'll have to find a shelter for themselves. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things are there. So it's very difficult to say that, the trafficked kind of situation is not going to happen, but why shouldn't we aim for it? At least we can try. Yeah.
And you're obviously working on lots of different things. What's your primary goal in Katran right now?
It's two things, very clearly. Now, one is eradicating waste, which is diverting waste from going into the landfill, very simply. And that waste, because I had to specialize, of course, I was looking at a lot of kinds of waste like paper and cardboard and MDF and wood and all that. So I decided it has to be fabric first, because I need to focus in depth about one material first, which is fabric, because I studied it. And second is women empowerment. And because there is a lot of, there is this, it's a patriarchal society, and women have to take care of the family, and, men have to go earn a living, and all of that, that age-old story that's still prevalent in the rural sector of the country. I'm sure it's prevalent all over the world, somewhere in pockets. Yeah. But I mean, that's something that I'm fighting, starting from the, little communities in India.
And you've obviously achieved a lot in a relatively short period of time, but what would you say is your most memorable achievement?
So I would say all my exhibitions have been really memorable because it's, the handcrafted, carefully crafted work of all my women, and that gets exhibited, and people come and they have a value for that, you see. So that's an achievement. And of course, another landmark was when we had a website where we could sell the products, So, I mean, the women actually, they get super excited whenever these orders come, and then they, the joy on their faces is kind of something which is, it leaves a mark on you, right? Because you're doing something for them, and then they realize it, and then they're actually benefiting out of it. So it's fun.
Oh, that's amazing. And I can imagine so much pride for you and for them that you're not just creating, you're recycling something, but you're also creating a piece of art, something that's unique. And so the level of pride is that much greater, that you're helping yourself, you're helping your community, you're helping the world. And that's just phenomenal. To be able to do that on so many levels. I'm getting goosebumps even as I say that.
How sweet is that?
Well, thank you so much for your time, Swati. I really appreciate it, and to hear so much about the exciting work that you're doing. And we look forward to working more closely together and hearing everything going from strength to strength.
That's so great, Emma. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, our pleasure.
It was lovely being a part of the interview.